Yo.
It's time. Um, Hello, welcome. Glad to see y'all here. John, hi. Glad you're doing well. Simon, again, thank you for the sub. I really appreciate it. Um, First, let's address the elephant in the room. Don't, don't, don't have my headphones anymore. These bad boys finally died on me. They no longer charge, so we will be without we'll be without horns for a while, which is tragic, but it is what it is. So I'm having to use little these tiny little earbuds. These little bad boys. Um they're good. They're good quality, but I think I'm having some connection issues with them. I'm not entirely sure why. Um but my microphone is too close and I am peeking. Peeking. If we have any issues with sound, please let me know. And I can try and address some of it. But that may be why some things sound a little weird. Um, yeah. It's day. It's the day. It's time to get that hill out. We're gonna oh boy, we sure are gonna quiet those mountains. Um yeah. Um yeah, I added I added the they're like the newer version of these ones. These were the 650s and I want to say I added the 7 whatevers. Um I plan on purchasing them myself anyway, at some point, but it was very much one of those things where it's like, hey, if people wanted to throw money towards that, I would not be mad about it, and it would mean that I would get them fixed sooner. I love JBL. I have worked with their products for a number of years. Those were the kinds of speakers that we had when I was doing, the DJing stuff way back in the day. These have been wonderful and have gone through a lot of quite frankly, abuse from me. And it's mostly just a matter of like, I think the charging port itself just doesn't want to connect anymore, and it's cheaper to get these ones repaired, but in the long term, it's probably more cost effective to just get a new pair. Yeah. Yeah, no, they're like, they're not cheap by any means, but they're definitely like incredibly reasonably priced, especially for the quality that you get. Would highly recommend. I'm not sponsored, by the way. Would highly recommend JBLs in general for like all audio needs. They're rad. I love them, and their customer support is like really nice. I had to reach out to them. Well, I didn't have to, but I tried to reach out to them to see if it was possible that mine were still under warranty. They unfortunately weren't. I knew that was a possibility. But like their support team was like incredibly lovely and very nice and very kind and very helpful. Even though we couldn't necessarily get my issue fixed. Would recommend. JBL, kind of rad. That being said, yeah, I'm stuck with like earbuds for the time being. So like I said, if anybody notices any weird sounds or anything like that, let me know and I can poke around and see what we can do. But like I said, that does mean my head feels naked not having the headphones on. It's weird. I could put them on and they would just sit over the headbuds, but like, it just feels weird. But yeah, we are playing Silent Hill 2, the remake, today. I've messed around with some of the settings. I think I have it all set up properly, but if I don't, hey, why? Okay, my captions just got hung up on that last sentence, apparently. You're right, it's strange not having them on. But, you know, it is what it is. We'll get it fixed eventually. We'll keep them, we'll use them. We'll get a pair of headphones so we can slap them on at some point. But yeah, I think I've got all the settings properly attuned for video game. There weren't really many options for like quality, like visual quality, so I'm hoping that it runs fine. I don't know, we'll see. I did see, and I posted it in the going live announcement, there's a whole section of settings for QuickTime events. Not sure I'm feeling that one, but we'll see. I think most people know what my opinion, my general opinion on this here video game is going to be. I'm actually gonna close my curtain real fast, sorry. The sun has gone down in just such a way that it's coming through the window and blinding me. And we don't like that. That is much better. But, there we go. Yeah, I think most people, kind of know what my opinion on this game is. Or at least thus far. I am going into it hopeful. I am going into it with an open mind. It feels slightly unnecessary to be doing this. Specifically unnecessary to be giving Silent Hill 2 to Blooper Team, given their track record. But, that being said, there is the hope that Blooper has learned from their previous endeavors. And there is the hope that because this is established and they have the original material to work from, that it will be fine. But we'll see. The bar for me, incredibly low. But here's hoping. It was recommended to play with a controller. So that's what we're doing. Also, here's our lovely menu. Love looking at that urinal. Let's go. Actually, this being said, I need to make sure that my other screen is fine. Hold on. We're just going to do a little test. Just a little testy test. Glad I did, because that is too big. One moment, please. I don't know why... Actually, I do know why. It's because Haunting Ground was so much smaller than everything else. Okay, but that should be fine. Because as per usual, I'll just pop over to that screen when we've got a cutscene going on. We do have content warnings in the chat, as always. However, please note that those are the content warnings for the original game, as I could not find, a Does the Dog Die page for this version of the game. The assumption is, if Blooper has done it correctly, that a lot of the same content will be in this one as in the original, but they did have a generalized content warning when I launched the game, just letting you know that there is various forms of abuse. There is the talk of heavier subjects like suicide, and things along those lines. So, I mean, you're here. You know what Silent Hill 2 is. You kind of know what you're getting yourself into. But again, we just like to make sure that everyone is aware and, you know, just knows what's happening. With that being said, we're not gonna dawdle anymore. Are y'all ready for this? Let's go. Let's do the thing. New game. Let's go. Oh, it helps to be clicked into the game. Okay, never mind. Never mind. I take it back. It's fine. I was gonna be like, why are we doing this? 90s, you say? No, let's just go with the default. And that's fine. Like, if you've not played it, it's okay. But it's also one of those, like, even if you've not played it, if you've just watched it, or you just know about it, it's like, you know what's up. You know what's going on. Because I did pre-order the game, I did not get the deluxe edition, because fuck paying an extra $10 just to get it 2 days earlier. Because I got the deluxe edition, we do have the Mira mask, which I was tempted to play with, but we're just gonna keep James in all of his stinky glory. And everything else is gonna remain the same. Standard combat, standard puzzles. Let's go. That's just a loading screen.
Could you really be in this town?
In my restless dreams, I see that town. Silent Hill. You promised you'd take me there again someday. But you never did. Well, I'm alone there now. In our special place. Waiting for you.
I got a letter. The name on the envelope said Mary. My wife's name. It's ridiculous. Couldn't possibly be true. That's what I keep telling myself. Mary died of that damn disease 3 years ago. So then why am I looking for her? Our special place. What could she mean? This whole town was our special place. Could Mary really be here? Is she really alive? Waiting for me?
Is she really here? Waiting for me? Oh, that's not the run button. James, I want to know what run is. Okay, well that's... Ooh. Is that run? L1 is run. Will say, so far, and it's not a surprise. It is really pretty. Like, not surprisingly, but just, like, wildly gorgeous. Let's go ahead and do a pickup. What a great map! Let's head to the graveyard, but before we do, I want to take a look around. Because that's what we do. Yeah. I don't know. Not many other thoughts at the moment. No. I just got an achievement. I just wanted to take a peek over there. Game says no, you're not allowed. Apparently that considers that as me trying to leave the town. We come! Just like the original. Okay. Sorry, if nothing else, I'm just very curious to kind of take a peek at everything. 20% off all diamonds? Y'all looking to buy some diamonds? What's this? Just a table. Yeah, no, it's lovely looking. It is gonna be weird not having it be, like, fixed camera angles. Or slightly more fixed. Controller, you don't have to vibrate that much. I promise. That's okay. Just gonna go for a lovely little jaunt through the forest. Like you do. Yeah. Okay. Captions, you are a little desynced. You're kind of happening before the sounds happen. That's okay. Could be worse. Just want to make sure it looks good on stream. Although if y'all notice like any mosaicing or anything like that, please let me know and I will try and fix it.
It's like someone's groping around my skull.
Also weird just hearing James say all the things that we would normally just get text for. Oh, we just run into it. Okay.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry. I was just...
Hey, it's okay. I didn't mean to scare you. I'm kind of lost.
Lost?
Yeah, I'm looking for Silent Hill. Is this the right way?
Yeah. It's hard to see with this fog, but there's only the one road. You can't miss it.
Thanks.
But... I think you should stay away. This town, there's something wrong with it. And it's not just the fog, either.
Is it dangerous?
Maybe. It's kind of hard to explain, but...
I'll be careful.
I'm not lying.
No, I believe you. It's just... I guess I don't really care if it's dangerous or not. I'm going either way.
But why?
I'm looking for... someone. Someone very important to me.
Me too. I'm looking for my mama. I mean, my mother. It's been so long since I've seen her. I thought my father and brother were here, but I can't find them either. I'm sorry, it's not your
Welcome,
problem.
Fruity.
No,
Fruity Spruce is raiding with a party of 3.
I hope you find
Kaysh and the gang welcome you.
Yeah, you too.
Hi, friends. It's Jank. It's a quiet raid. Listen, we were in the middle of a cutscene. We had to be quiet. I know what you were doing, but I'm still gonna give you a shout out. If I can remember how to do it. But welcome in, Fruity and Raiders. How is it going? It's here, it's time, we're silent hilling. It sure is silent out. I want to talk to Angela some more because I love her. Just in general, I love Angela, and I just want to tell her it's fine.
Did you want anything else?
No, it's just... this fog. Does it seem unsettling to you?
I guess.
Look at her when you talk to her, James. Yeah, silent raid for Silent Hill flavor. Just get into the spirit of things. But yeah, I know Fruity knows what's up. But for any of the raiders, if you don't know, also welcome, Fart Bubbler. Playing Silent Hill. Got content warnings in chat if you need them. They are for the original game, not this one. Because there was not a Does the Dog Die page specifically for the new Silent Hill. We're here, we just started. We've met Angela, who I will defend to the ends of the earth. Oh, the church is so big now. And yeah. Just a couple of points. Specifically more for free than anyone else. Using my earbuds instead of regular headphones, because my headphones died. So if the sound ends up sounding strange, please let me know. We will try and fix it. We did not have a lot of options as far as graphics are concerned. So if there's any mosaicing on the side of stream that y'all are noticing, please let me know and I will try and see what I can do to fix that. Yeah, I don't know. That's about all I got. Hi, welcome. Happy to have you here. Obviously, if you need to raid and run, feel free to do so, but we'll be here for a while, I think. Tom. You do live on a hill and you silently raided. Sounds like you are part of Silent Hill. Just saying. And because it's my stream and I do what I want, we're gonna be poking around all the corners, seeing what all is around, and all that good stuff. Because I'm nosy. And it is a very pretty game. At some point I will probably get bored of endlessly running, though. Oh, what's this? It's good stuff, except for all the really bad ones. Basically, as far as Silent Hill is concerned, yes, this is accurate. Tom was the hill all along, I'd believe it. Oh, some of the graves are underwater. Tragic. Why are they so far from the other ones? You want to interact with that at all, James? No? I mean, if you get the chance to finish them, would recommend. The third one is so good. This one is really good, but I really like 3, especially, like, as a sequel. It's so good. Love Heather. Yeah, I don't know. I'm at the point where I'm like, I just want to talk about this game a whole lot, but I'm also like, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to, like, set up this precedence of me being like, Silent Hill 2 Remake, I'm not expecting it to be good. I mean, again, we know my thoughts on this. I am not expecting a ton, but am more than willing and happy to be pleasantly surprised. Oh, look, it's a scarecrow. I'm just hoping the Blooper team has learned. I want them to succeed. As I do most horror devs, but like, you know. I would consider The Last of Us to be horror. That's a Silent Hill Ranch. Maybe not, like, exclusively horror, but horror. The only other one you played was Obscure. Oh, shit! I haven't thought about that game in a minute! Oh, God. I think I've got it on my Steam wish list, but I don't know how good the port is. I've, like, considered streaming it, but I don't know how well that would go. And it'd be better with, like, a second person. Probably. I don't know. That game is a lot. Jeez. Alright. I need to just keep walking ahead. I'm getting distracted by just looking at everything around us. Again, it's lovely. For real? I mean, that's not entirely surprising. I feel like Obscure, as a whole, is incredibly obscure. It's a given joke, but like, I feel like that's definitely one of those that like a lot of people don't necessarily. It's definitely. I don't remember it being particularly popular, I guess is the thing. Last of Us 2 more so. More of the horror. Watch the therapist play it. It was nice to have stops with all the heavy things. I can imagine. I don't know. I think I'm firmly in the camp of I did not like Last of Us 2, for a number of reasons. But not just because, not the reasons that a lot of other people cite. I don't know. I keep trying to go back to it and trying it again, and I'm just sort of like, no, I'm good. What's down to get the window fixed? Spare keys in the drawer. Okay, well, before I go in...
Hello?
Oh,
Anyone in here?
you want me to go in this way? Okay, well then I'm gonna go look over here. No. Okay. That's fine, I guess. In we go. Already climbed through tutorial. Thank you, though. Can I would love a flashlight. It's very dark. In the original, you don't get a flashlight until the apartment. But it's fine. We got a key. Oh, I can't. I can rotate it, but not as aggressively as I would like to. You're right. The Last of Us 2 was too woke. That's why it was a bad video game. It had the gays and discussions of processing trauma and grief. No, I don't know. It just felt really excessive at points. And not, I don't know. I want to be able to articulate my feelings about it, but because I didn't finish it. I got really close to the end, and then I just got to a point where I was like, I'm done playing this. And then I tried again on stream, I think? Or maybe we just threw around the idea of trying to stream it. I don't remember. Because that was a bit ago. But I just, I could not get into it. See, I really liked The Last of Us, the first one. I don't know. It's one of those, I have, a firm opinion on it, but I can't necessarily articulate why, and that's, really frustrating to me. I think you just did the first one and Left Behind on stream. I definitely did the DLC, for sure. And I think we talked about starting to, and then I just never did. You know, like you do. James, what are we doing? Road work ahead. I sure hope it does. Sorry. I think I can hear the radio. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm just superimposing that into it. Yeah, I don't know. Especially since I didn't finish it, it's one of those things where it's I just wanted, I usually just leave it as, yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of it. And that's that. But, you know. I should actually finish it at some point, be it on stream or not, just so I can maybe figure out why it is that I did not like it. The real horror was the corn all along. I appreciate that the fog is heavy, but not so much so that I can't see anything, but also not so light that I can see everything. Sam Brother didn't like The Last of Us 2, but also hates all video games. It's true. Doesn't like any video game. Drags on, but you highly appreciate the intention behind it. That's fair. I don't even necessarily know that it was the length. It wasn't necessarily that it was excessive in the gameplay, although I did get to a point where I was just okay, please, let's kind of get to it. I don't know, again, I'm just badly trying to describe why I wasn't a fan, and I feel like a bit of a goon trying to do that, because again, it has been a while since I had played it, and so that also does not help the situation. Oh. I just got the achievement that we are in Silent Hill now. But I thought that was going to be a cutscene, but nope. Okay, but where's my weapon? Hey, I know that map. I have the map to that area. Yeah, I mean, it did feel like at a point where, like, the violence was just there to be violent. But, like, I'm also a fan of, like, movies that just are violent to be violent. Sometimes you just want things to just be unnecessarily violent. And that's fine. I mean, depending on what you do with that. But there were definitely points where it's just like, wow, like, what we're doing here, like, as far as the violence is concerned, is just a lot. And it's like, you know, if you want your video game to make me feel bad and hopeless about life, like, cool. Like, do it, I guess. But there were times where it's like, you've already established that everything fucking sucks. And this is... I don't know, because that's not even, like, necessarily, like, the full reason I just kind of got annoyed with it, but it definitely did not assist. I can't read this, so... Miss Cassandra! A customer came in today, ordered a mixed bouquet, red and white. I tried to explain it's bad luck, but he couldn't decide on just one. He seemed a bit off, looked at me like I wasn't even there. Then he just left, said he'd be back to pick him up later. I just wanted to let you know, since I might be gone by then. Oops. Why are you letting me flip it over if there's nothing there? There's gonna be... Okay. Alright, there's gonna be so many notes. So many useless notes like that. I say useless. I'm sorry. That's not fair of me. This early on. I saw that bug. Or rat. Or whatever. What's this?
What is this?
It's goop. It's just goop, James. No, that is fair. Yeah, like I said, I need to play it again. A, to actually finish it, and also to be able to form coherent sentences as to why I was not a fan. Is this the map button? It is. Oh, I can wiggle the map around! Why? Okay. Okay. Oh. I mean, look, we're in Silent Hill now. You're in Silent Hill. I haven't watched the show yet. It was on HBO, right? I think when it came out, I, like, didn't have access to HBO, but I do now, I think? Need to triple check that I still have login access. Why does it look like that? It's fine. Sky Atlantic in the UK. What's that can doing? What is that doing? What is all this debris doing? Yeah, I really want to check it out. Because, like, I've heard good things about it. I just haven't yet. Oh. It's Gonzalez's Mexican restaurant! They put it in! My god. Okay, how are we marking things on the map? Oh, like, vaguely intelligently. I appreciate that. It's letting me know what stores I can't go into. I mean, I assume I can't go into any of them. Or at least very many of them. But I like knowing for certain which ones I can and cannot enter. James, you're supposed to tell me it's locked. Sorry, we are just wiggling around very strangely.
More of that stuff.
You can just call it goop. You can just say that there's goop on the ground. That's fine. Sorry, like I said, we are just gonna kind of wander around uselessly for a bit because I want to look at everything, and also I want to know if there's shit that I can get. I want the bits. Give me the things. What does that say? It's the drug hotline. And it's... Yeah, he's supposed to say, the lock is broken, all blown out way too... Like this, like that. He's supposed to go, the lock is broken. Just like that. I'm sorry if that was very loud. I tried not to shout it. It's the drug hotline! Get your drugs! Hot and fresh here! I don't know. I kind of like that. I don't know. Considering that there was that whole White Claudia subplot in the original, I appreciate the fact that there's a drug hotline here in the silentest of hills. This is where I'm supposed to go? There's a lot of blood over here. I mean, goop. Anything? Nothing. Can we go in? You will not allow me to go into the cafe. That's fine, I suppose. I don't want to go in there anyway. Sorry. As per Silent Hill tradition, I will be opening up my map every 10 seconds. Excuse me?
Hey, wait.
It is Hoodie Man. He's just wandering around looking cool in his hoodie, listening to his Walkman. Hello? I am really glad that while they redid it, they did keep the original soundtrack. That was a thing that we looked up the other day. What does it say? Remains of blank swamp. The Urs of land surround. His monument was originally a swamp, but was later full. It was nicknamed Blood Swamp because the Wat Ed to wash the ools. After Shin's woe be poured it. Perhaps it's faux hat Ria that many in half clay to have the area. I hope that cleared up everything for you. Answered all of your questions. Oh, you're over here. Hello? That is so much goop. Man's gunking up a storm. Sir, are you allowed to be back here? Are you or do you know the owners? There's someone making all sorts of sounds on the opposite side of that fence. Can I see him? No. No, I cannot. Tragic. I was hoping. It's true. He's got his earbuds in. Said there was a door closing. I don't see... That's just trees. Am I just a goober? This was the way that they were leading me, right? I mean, there's so many sounds over there. Oh, there it is. The fence just kind of...
Hello?
Sorry. I was gonna make a comment on his butt, and then he fucking penguin slid away. He was shy. Consider. Pence. I know that that was supposed to be scary, but I just thought it was very funny. Hey, penguin, slide that butt back over here. Hey, cutie! Let me see that booty! Oh, what? James, what are we doing? Well, it's not what I would have done. Oh, hey, another safe spot. I have to squeeze through. Okay. Well, it's been a minute, I suppose. I do like that we get to see James's face on the save menu, just like the original. It's a little thing, but I like it. Hold on. It's getting a little warm in here. Sorry, I've knocked loose one of my earbuds. And I need to turn. Of course I have a pink. Why wouldn't I? There we go. Ugh. Sorry, I don't know what my hair is doing right now. It's just very flat. Usually I could just hide it with my headphones. Not today. If they make any changes to this here video game, I would love it to be that I get my flashlight sooner. Nutrition supplement. Dink your juice. It's for adults only. It says something about not going over the recommended dose, which is because I'm here to tell you, I will be slamming them back. It's very dark. I can't see anything. It's very dark. You're in there, aren't you? Oh, and I can't go upstairs. Okay. Hello? Well, there's no one here. Just this funny radio. Oh, they still look like ass. Sorry, why is he so smooth? James? Good God, James!
Whatever it is, it's not human.
Why did it look so bad in the cutscene? Oh, look, it's wearing heels. I mean, granted, it's hard to see it now, but it doesn't look quite as smooth. Is that a hot take? That it did not look good? I don't care if it is. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking with it. I said what I said. Give me that first aid kit. Oh, JK, give me that nasty looking syringe? Don't put that on your body, James! Bro! Do you want to get a bloodborne pathogen? Because that's how this happens. No, I'm not using the syringe. First off, I don't think I got injured. See, even Mary doesn't know what this man's name is. Jam? Hey, this is a public service announcement. Please don't eat syringes, but especially of the nasty, dirty, rowdy type. That's gross. Why? What does that say? Oh. Why does he swing it like that? I mean, at least he's not doing it like he knows what he's doing, but at the same time, why that? James. That's not a criticism of the game, that's just a criticism of James. James deserves every bad thing that you can say about him. What are you looking at? Oh, that corpse? That... That doesn't look like us. Bar Neely's. It's like a disease surprise bag. Throw a bunch into a bag, shake it up, grab the first one you can get. Don't do this. These are horrible things to be doing to yourself. If you're reading this, leave. This place is not what it seems. Sometimes you just have to look behind. Run away, 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 run away. Bro. I've looked behind. You are still there. Excuse? Excuse? I do be eating them floor pills in Isaac and Isaac alone. Oh, look at him go! Okay, sorry. I am gonna take issue with that animation. It looks goofy as fuck. Also, don't appreciate that the sound kinda came from everywhere and not just in front of me. That, I will say, could be because of my earbuds. So that is that's a thing that I will potentially rescind. But it did seem like it just came from all over. Just save over that. That's fine. I don't think it matters that much at the moment to space out our saves. Fart Bubbler understands what's going on. Facts. They might taste good, and you won't know unless you eat it. I love Isaac. Finding of Isaac is a good game. Hello? That sounded more directional. That's coming from over there. Oh, look, a guy! Hey, can I get some directions? Oh! I keep hitting the wrong button. Don't launch yourself at me, dweeb. James, calm down. Okay, no, they also just don't look great. Here. Why are they so shiny? This is one of the few times that I'm gonna say, don't damp up your enemy. Boy needs to be matte. Hello? Where? In here? Excuse? What? Oh! It's a cockroach. Do it! Get some food. Where? Yeah, you slide on in here. Okay. It's true, they don't meow anymore. Can I look at this? I just see a lump. It's too dark. I'm assuming that's like a shirt that's covered in blood. Or something. Something is covered in blood. The roaches don't meow anymore. Horrible. Can I look at that? Deluxe automatic washers. Wash away the stains of yesterday. Super strong, super clean. I clean Bibby's dum-dum. Give Bibby snack of soap. Can I get back there? Nope, that's just monster hole. Understood. Can I break this? No. Okay. I can break that though! Again, we're gonna look around and do a bunch of silly nonsense. I'm gonna keep fucking around with my hair because I hate how it looks at the moment. You know, normal things. I've been considering, like, shaving the sides and just giving myself a mohawk. Because I haven't done anything weird with my hair in a while. In March of, can I? Okay. In March of 1965, the town of Silent Hill was visited by the main psychical, research association. After thorough examination, a team of expert dowsers from the association concluded the area surrounded the now historic Wiltz coal mine to be highly active. They also expressed their hopes for further research and exploration of the gorge. These hopes, however, were never fulfilled due to the location being restricted as a historic nature preserve as declared by the Silent Hill Historical Society. That's where they're doing all their fucking rituals. Additionally, the idea was met with resistance from— that's a lie. We all know that they're doing those in the basement of their hospital. Or in or in people's houses. Thanks, Dahlia. Additionally, the idea was met with resistance from the local community, which claimed that the nature of the association's research would hinder tourist activity in the area. Questioning the credibility of our research and hiding behind day trippers seems like an excuse to prevent us from seeing what's really out there, commented one of the researchers. Unfortunately, none of the local representatives were available to comment on the matter. Editor's note: at the time of publishing, there exists no evidence supporting credibility of radiesthesia or proving effectiveness of any dowsing methods. Opinions expressed in the article do not reflect the author's views. Okay. Anything back here? Nothing. Literally nothing. Okay. Cool. Music is going hog wild. I mean, they want us to go to Neely's bar, which is to the south of us. The druids wandering around waving dowsing rods were scaring off the guests. Get those druids out of here! Dang druids. Oh. Hello! Oh. I'm just gonna keep hitting the incorrect button. Oh! I was trying to dodge. What was the dodge button? Circle. You wanna dink-a-dink? Press and hold to use the syringe. Weird. Okay. Well, I have no health items anymore. That was a me problem. I goofed. Yeah, I don't hate that lore. That's fine. Fuck, did it again. You can't spit on me while I'm hitting you. That's not allowed. Also, the combat is so goddamn loud by comparison to everything else. I'm so sorry. Hey, James, do you want to find a health tank and a flashlight? Because I feel like that's probably a good thing to do. That man was here again. I told him he'd been warned not to come here. He acted like he didn't know what I was talking about. Anyway, he got up and left. He didn't make any sort of fuss, but there's something about him that gives me the creeps. When I look at his face, it's like I'm staring at a mask, and there's something underneath, waiting to get out. I don't want to be there when it happens. Are all these notes about James? Because if they are, I will actually riot. Think it. Chug that bad boy. Because that would just go back to the same issue of one of the complaints that I believe many other people have had about how Blooper handles certain things, where it's like, look, we all already know. We all know James is a fucking weirdo. But also, y'all have to make it so on the nose. Giga computer! Also, there's just a guy wiggling around. He can wiggle, though. Let him wiggle. Bye. Yep, okay. Nope, James, get out of the menu! Sorry, I can see him floating over the ground. Well, at least they're easier to hit when they're on the ground now. Is it wearing a thong? No, that's part of its weird, what's it? Straitjacket. Okay. I see, I understand. I was looking for Neely's bar, which is just gonna tell me to go to the Glue Creek Apartments, or the Woodside Apartments, excuse me, right? And there's gonna be the thing on the wall that's like, there was a hole here once. It's gone now. Why is James a weirdo? I actually do not know. Because he got mad that his wife wasn't putting out because she was dying? And also, he's just an absolute freak? You mean those reasons? Yeah, he's not a good man. Again, this isn't necessarily like, I'm not considering this spoilers. It's one of those like, hey, sorry if you didn't know. Surprise! James is a freak. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what got into him. He just started smashing the thing. Had to throw him out. He ran off, cried that he'd fix everything. Gather up what I could. Still haven't found one of the buttons. Half the record is still lodged inside, but the other part's missing. Figure he must have taken it. Come to think of it, he did run towards Groovy. Anyway, maybe go check up on him? See if he's alright? He lives over at Saul by the pharmacy. Apartment 9. Okay. Is that gonna be like Saul Street or something? There was a hole here! It's gone now! There was a hole here! Sorry. It's the all caps hole! That's doing it for me. Oh! Okay. New puzzle just dropped. And by puzzle, we mean fetch quest, right? They said Saul, right? So, I need to keep going south. Saul Street Apartments. Yeah, no, James is a bad man, whom we do not like. Headphones? Why are we having trouble? I'm not even that far from the dongle. It's just right here. And I don't think my arm is the problem, although it could be. Hello? Am I going the correct way? Yes. First, we gotta go to Happy Burger. Happy Burger. Well, at least we're not doing combat rolls. Where are you going? Okay. Look here. Look here. Can't. James. It twitched. Oh, I have nothing. Okay. Hey, game. Here's the thing. And I don't necessarily think it's a matter of me not looking around enough. I've been looking at everything. If you're gonna let the enemies hit me, even when I am actively attacking them, which is a little annoying, but I'll let it slide. But if you're gonna have that happen, you have to give me more health items. Just consistently. Because they hurt me. They hurt me when they hit me. And you're not letting me dodge them, and you're making them just, I can't feel the craving. You just can't help it. Go for it. Happy Burger. What you need is what you get. On the run, grab something to go. Hey, do you have a nasty syringe in here for me? Fuck off. It's bad in here. We know this now. Oh, hey, grab that and go. You gonna come out the window? Yeah, do that. Does the other one want to come out too? Okay. Yeah, it's just like Zomboid. Just get him to go over the fence and get them while they're down, because they're so much easier to kill when they're on the ground. But I'm nosy and I want to know what's out here. Get him! Get him while he's down! Alright, so here's the thing. Alright. One could make the argument that I am desensitized to the horrors of Silent Hill, because I have played the games a lot. However, Rudy can attest to this. Game still fucking scares me at times. 'Cause enemies crawl out from under cars, and it's surprising. And it's also just a creepy game. Thus far, I have found myself laughing more consistently at these enemies than I have being scared of them. And I don't know. I don't know what to do with that just yet. Other than just kind of be there with it. You know? Combat's still clunky as fuck, which I'm not hating. I know normally that would be like a thing that people would be like, oh, that's a deal breaker or whatever. But honestly, that's what I like about the original Silent Hill, is that combat is not necessarily reliable. You're just some dude who's never punched a guy before. What do you mean you want me to kill things with a piece of wood? But come across a lot of guys so far. Some of them not necessarily avoidable. Could probably just try and run. I'm gonna try that actually with the next couple of enemies. I'm gonna try and see if we can just like run away. I mean, we did run away from this last one, then I went back and said, fuck you, actually. Excuse me. But, ooh, low frames, what's happening? Thank you, Fart Bubbler. Because, like, we're not necessarily supposed to, like, be able to kill all the guys. I see that cockroach. Is too dark. I don't know where it is. There it is. Crunch it! Good job. Lost my train of thought because sneeze and cockroach. That's the name of my next band. Hi, creepy thing. What's that out there? Oh, it's just a bit of wood. Okay, never mind. Aptify left his key. Says there's a leak from upstairs. Gotta check it out. Okay. You do that then, bud. Well, give me Aptify key. Thank you. What the fuck was that, James? It was me hitting the wrong button, is what it was. Are they going to give me... Thanks for this very useful map. Sorry, I'm being rude at the moment. It's just, they're adding a little extra padding. Which, again, reserving my thoughts on at the moment. But I need a flashlight. This game is very dark. In the back of your mind, you really want to play this game as Francis York Morgan. Isn't that right, James? Oh no. I mean, it would make it very enjoyable. It would make it very enjoyable to me. Yeah, York versus Silent Hill would be amazing. I'm very much here for this. I don't hate this idea. Also, Relevmid ×3. That's a lot of money. Why is... This is... Okay, this is fine. I don't... Does it matter? Do I need to know these? Why can I look at this receipt? If I'm gonna need that to, like, unlock something, I will... Scream. Cool. They're all locked. Hello? Game, it's... If you're gonna give me cockroaches to stomp, I need to be able to see them. And do you know how I'd be able to see them? With a flashlight. I know none of those are 5. None of those have been 5 so far. But... I am gonna try and open all of them. So that we can mark it on our map. Why aren't you just opening up the map for the area that I'm in? Did I not pick that map up? Despite the fact that I touched it a lot? Okay. It's whatever. It's a simple map anyway. But I like seeing all the marks. Let me see the marks. Hey, I think this apartment building has a bigger issue than just a little leak. Call me kooky. You need a pith? Pith, James. I just want a flashlight. And this is with me turning, like, the gamma up. Like, not all the way, because it started, like, blowing out the images and stuff like that. But this is, like, higher than what they recommended. So a little confused. Excuse? You need some water? Someone on the street is making that noise. That's what I'm assuming. Well, we're not getting back that way. And then she came and washed it all away. It all started to make sense again. It's this place. I can't fight it. Gotta get my head straight. Quick stop at Texan. Then we're going. God, are they really just sending me on a bunch of fucking fetch quests? Blooper. Hey, Blooper team? Don't fuck with me! Hole! Hole in wall! Hole! 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 There's a hole! Put your hand in it, James! Hole! Put your hand in the hole! Put your hand in the hole! Put your hand in the hole! Hand in hole! Hand in hole! You bitch! Put your hand in there! Stop telling me to put your hand in there! Put your hand in there! Yeah, he's right-handed now. And that's a little weird. But you know, it's whatever. Lefties unite! I say that I am not left-handed at all. But get that left-handed representation in there. Again, I was starting to play through the original 2 days ago. Cause I was like, well, why the fuck not? You know, 2 days ago? Yesterday? When the fuck was that? Whatever. I noticed that James was using his left hand to shove hand in hole. So I was like, oh, is our boy... Sorry. Can you imagine if he just ate shit right then and there? I noticed he was using his left hand, and so it was a question of, is he using his left hand because that's his dominant hand, or is he using his left hand because he'd be fine with losing his left hand because he's a right-handed boy? Because I would 100% use my left hand, because I'm right-handed. Also, yes, I moved ambidextrous? Wow. My left hand is useless. I can't do shit with it. So just even being able to do anything with your non-dominant hand is wild to me. Okay, before I go out there, Texan Cafe. We gotta go up to the American Cafe. Simon can't lose either hand. Us, on the other hand, absolutely can. Get rid of that thing. It's useless. No, you definitely want to get rid of a hand. Listen. Throw that shit out. Who needs it? Oh, that's blocked. Okay. What's in here? Hold on. What's in here? Oh, oh! I can't read that. There's too many guys. Oh! I can't read that. There's too many guys. Okay. Excuse? You can't just keep rotating to vomit at me. James. Fuck off. I'm gonna die. This is how James dies. Okay, and then stop this guy. Never mind. James, we gotta heal up, bud. I'll write down what I've learned so far. Maybe it'll help you somehow. I meant to flip that. If you're reading this, I'm probably dead. I mean, yes, that is correct. Seems like they're attracted to light. Louder sounds as well. If you want to survive, stay in the dark. Stay quiet. Probably won't save you anyway. Okay, thanks, bud. How do I get to my notes? Game, you can't tell me I've picked up things and then not let me look at them again. Okay, well, I guess we picked up those notes and we just don't get to know what's on them. I'll figure out how to get there later. This place, all it's ever brought me is pain and misery. Give me that health drink. Okay, we are starting to get more health, which is great. Wish I knew how to get into the menu where I could read the notes that I've picked up previously. 'Cause, like, you would think, since they have named the notes, that we would have a menu where I could look at those notes, right? Fact that I can't find a menu for that. Little annoying. Oh my god. Listen, there's already plenty of terrible omens going on. Giving us more health? Actually a delight. I am already bored with the combat though, so we will be avoiding that as much as possible. We need to go to the next street. Giga computer. Also, a cab. Texan Cafe. That's at the end of this street, right? We might need to take a break soon-ish, because I might need to use the bathroom soon. And the last thing I want to do is laugh so much that I, you know. Can I go in here? Oh. Why are you making that noise? Anyone in here? This isn't the cafe, but I'm sure gonna raid this place. I saw him again. Or at least I think so. He says he didn't, but I don't know anymore. I'm tired. Can't find it. Doesn't matter. That scraping noise again. Is there? I can't see. Game. It's too dark. James does kind of look at things when they're around, but only just. Is this a cafe? Cafe Texan. Hi, I'm here again. I think I came here before. I love void haircut. It's true. Okay. Well, I don't know where you are. It's too dark. I can't see. Are you dead? Said James. Okay, so we got the coin for Barneely's, but I don't have the vinyl shards. Sorry, I have to, like, keep wiggling around. My joints have been very unhappy recently. No one is shocked. Excuse. Okay, we need to go to Grand Market, because there's a question mark there. See? There's a question mark on Grand Market, and then we need to go through the Woodside Apartments. Obviously. I say obviously, because that's where I've been trying to get to this whole time. And I don't know if I have the key for that, actually. Because I don't know how to access my inventory. Oh, JK, I found it! It's the touchpad. But it's the same size as the start button. And usually the touchpad just works the same as the start or the share button. Okay, well, oops, not what I meant to do. That's gonna be weird. That's gonna be weird to get used to. It's fine. I at least found it. Okay, so we've got our key items. Small plastic button. Coin. Seems like they're attracted to the light. I've written down all I could learn. Old map found by the motorhome. There are some markings on it. They can be killed. Just make sure they stay down. Okay. Don't fully back out, bud. Okay, we looked at everything else so far. Maps. Hold on. A photo from when she was still healthy. Can I read this? No. I mean, it's just what it says. In the opening, but I was just curious. Okay, where am I heading? Grand Market. And then to Woodside Apartment, I guess, even though I don't have the key. I only have the apartment 5 key for the Saul apartments. It's fine. I'm assuming I need a key. Because you do in the original. But I could be wrong. Can we go in? Is there a way to go in? Excuse me, where? Oh. I didn't see the bug, but I saw the bag just tumbling at me and I was like, is that the enemy? In control. Can I go in here? Fuck off, cockroach. Oh, I can't go in yet. Okay. I mean, we come back to, like, main town Silent Hill. Listen. That bag was terrifying. I'm shaking in my boots. I'm so scared. Are you gonna come out from under there? Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. Oh, he's goofing everywhere. Excuse you! God. Get the fuck out of here with these quick time events. Can you crunch the boy? Nope. Okay. Well, drink your juice then. I mean, that's the first time that we've come across a quick time event, but I'm already like, no thank you about it. Okay, well, is it at the end of Martin Street and I just, like, missed it? Because that's where it is in the original, right? Oh, boy. Enthralled. Calm your tits. It's fine. That's not a street. That's Martin Street. It's a choice. Adding quick time events is a choice. one that I'm not super fond of. Yeah, like you said, like everyone else is trying to get rid of them. Have we considered just getting rid of them for good? And never bringing them back. I mean, I say that. I really like Until Dawn and the Dark Picture anthologies and stuff like that. Wait, isn't this where I came from? Yeah. Okay, so where the fuck is the... Game? Game. What am I missing? Yeah, I know there's a keypad there. James, you're really bad at notes, huh? Oh, I should probably go to groovy music, huh? Okay. Before we keep doing that, though, I am gonna go use the restroom and refill my water. And... consider heating up some food or something. I don't know. I'm, like, hungry, but I'm not. Whatever. We're taking a quick break. We'll be right back. Master boy, no! Please, 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 please. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. No! No, 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 no. Okay, sorry. Again, if I just keep screaming no, maybe they'll stop. Have a whatever. I also keep trying to play this like Resident Evil and I attempt to block and that doesn't work. 0451, where does that go? Oh. Oh no. Oh no. What? And don't think I didn't forget his leg-long nipples. The leg-long nipples. I imagine that everyone downstairs can hear me right now. Just going leg-long nipples.
Nice
Perfect.
to meet you, friend of elves.
Crystals are
Buddy.
the source of magical power.
You can post a link here. Yeah, absolutely.
Form of mana.
We're gonna look at it, though. I need you to know.
As the elves bring mana into the room,
I'm gonna pull it up
it
on
converts
stream.
into the magician's power.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. That's incorrect. No, I need you to fucking... Please.
Damn, what is that?
What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck?
Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine. Shrieking skulls will shock your soul, seal your doom tonight.
I just want to point out I have turned that down. Where the heck did that hideous thing come from? And look at him! Look at him! I love him! Look at the little eyeballs! I don't know why you're unnerved. I think he's precious.
You gotta get a bath before we...
Oh shit!
Come on.
You really want to?
But I don't know where he is because he's invisible.
Ah, the tube's getting
The
stuck.
tube!
No,
Stop
I can't.
sucking on the tube!
Stitch is just down there going.
There we go.
Stitch is just having a good time. He don't even like attack Stitch.
It's because we're shitting on Final Fantasy 13.
Are you? It really is. Who's that Dark Souls boss? It's Pikachu! It's not fine. Fuck. I'm telling you, we got some Telltale Heart shit. You cool? You're not cool! It was purple and I hated it! Will you look at chat for once, please? Look. No, Devo, look.
Did I get everything out of the tractor? Yeah, fam. Nah, it's bad chain.
How dare! But he's also got a cow butt. And so you gotta, like... I don't know how cow legs work. I don't know how to cow legs! That is fine, I guess. There we go. The ball's gotta stay dry as shit. We're gonna die! We're gonna get snacked! Oh, I hate this! Yeah, we're gonna look through everything. I'm so sorry. Oh, fucking hell! Oh, no! Oh, God! It's a little late for that! No! Oh, no! Well, that's not great! Abrupt music end. Wait, so this is the closet, right? That, like, he was supposed to be hiding in?
Oh god, I hear her. Are you okay?
Yeah! No! I don't know where she is, but I can hear her in my brain. You try putting clothes on when you don't have any bones, Cyril. Kill crawling Carl! Carl!
Harumi's on day 3 in the nest.
That's horrible. No. No.
Harumi's 10 years
No.
old.
No. No.
Despite this prompts.
No.
This sound.
No. No. No.
Why Harumi spontaneously ages 10 years and finds a gun? Imagine that, that'd be fine.
No. Okay. Hi, I'm back. I had some crusty bread. It was delicious. And also grip it and rip it. I was gonna go for some more water, but I've drank so much today that I'm like, fuck it. I'm getting a soda. Okay. Whoop, wrong button. Where were we going? Groovy music. Street over. Why were we vibrating? Yeah. Maybe I'll just keep eating crusty bread. Maybe that's dinner tonight. Maybe a little bit of bread. some toasted bread. It's bread. You? That is you making that noise. Okay. Excuse me. James, put your stick away. We're ignoring the man. And we are going. Yeah, I know. Game. I know about smashing windows. I've done it a few times. Where? Oh, God. Can we not? Oh, God. Okay, are they down? Are they both down? Are we done? Oh my god. I can't see. Hey, so there's a reason why the game takes you to the apartments as quick as they do, and that's because your flashlight is there. And they recognize, here's the thing, Team Silent recognized that they made their game incredibly dark and hard to see. And so they were like, hey, we want you to understand that it's dark and weird and uncomfy, but we also want to give you the option of having light. So we're gonna just establish very quickly that, hey, it's real dark around here, but then also give you a light. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Janitor came in the other day, drunk and in tears, had half a record with him, kept yelling we gotta fix it somehow. I was willing to do it just to shut him up, so I got up to get the glue from the cabinet. Then he realized he only had the one half, so he ran out. Can't do much about the record. Maybe ask around at Neely's next time you're there. Might be one of theirs. Yeah, we know it's Neely's. Like, we know... Okay, cool. I don't have any health drinks anymore. Okay. Can't see. Are you telling me that you have returned it to Neely's already? And that I have come here for nothing? Face the music, find the melody of your dreams, and kick up your heels. No thanks. Never mind, I can get back here. Give me that. It's glue. It's half a record. Can I break? All I can. Because I'm a menace. And fuck this store. Where are you facing, James? James, where are you facing? Health items? Music can bring you back to those wonderful moments you thought lost. Okay. Well, James. Fuck this store. Excuse me. Back down to Neely's, which is down the street. Okay. Down this street? Yeah. I hear guys gunking. I see you under there. Okay. Hiding guys under the car doesn't work if they're only half under the car. That's fine, though. That's okay. At the very least, I would like to get to the apartments. I would also like for there to stop being stuttering. Why is the fog dark here? Whatever. Jesus. Okay. Combine that with that. James, you've done a terrible job of gluing that. The record's gonna skip over all the bits where you got the glue on the top. Yeah, I don't think James understands how records work. Quite frankly, I don't understand how this works. What's the point of that? Sorry, I okay, it's fine. 2C2? You know, you could just do all this for me, game. Not him instantly starting to cry. It's the quickness with which he started to cry, not him actually crying. That annoys me.
Park on the lake. We spent the whole day there. Just the two of us staring at the water.
Did you see that the key sort of just materialized after the camera had already panned down? Oh boy. So here's the thing about Blooper that I've noticed playing some of their games. They, to a criminal extent, often tell rather than show. And I'm starting to get the incredibly strong impression that they might try doing that for us with James and Mary, and I am not exactly excited. But we'll see. Again, maybe I'm wrong. A thing that I'm going to instantly drink because, oh my god, we're hurt. What is that? Certificate of Accreditation, Albert Smith. Came back after you left. It's fine, you didn't try anything. He just seemed sad. Mumbled something about getting out of town with someone. I wasn't gonna let him drive in his condition, so I locked him out. His car should be out back. Maybe check if it's still there by morning. It's the greenish blue one. Plate number ending with 06, I think. Okay. Greenish blue one, you say? Ending in 06. Neither of those were greenish blue. That's green. Bug stomp! You end in 06? Where's your license plate? 2D. I thought that said Bozo's Sushi. It's Gozo's Sushi. Also, a store in the original. And that's, I mean, just straight up green. Not greenish blue. Okay. How out back are we talking? Oh, 06? That just looks gray to me. Am I? Let's say 06, right? Hold on. What does it say? Greenish blue car. Is it not 26? I don't fucking remember. 06. Greenish blue one, plate number ending in 06. Investigate. Can I turn it over? Anything on the back? No. Okay. 06. That's 6-4. There's nothing else back there. Oh, I can go through here. Never mind. Greenish blue ending in 06. What are we looking at, James? Oh. This? Excuse... Oh my god. Oh, I just can't leave. Are you genuinely forcing me into combat? Hold on. Are we good? Game, what do you want from me? I've killed them. They're dead. I don't have any health. Oh, you want me to go over here? Is this us going to Otherworld Silent Hill? 'Cause Not sure I'm feeling this transformation, but you know, maybe the wind's just picked up. Where am I? I'm on the wrong street. This is fine. Please, just get me to the apartments. That's all I want at this point. I just want to get to the apartments. That's all I wanted for the last 2 hours. Probably closer to an hour and a half, but you know. And again, I recognize, oh god, frames, that some of that was just me wandering around, like, aimlessly. Okay. James? James, you have to go inside. James? Oh my god, okay. Great. It's dark. My god, is it dark. I need healing items before I save. Like... You can't trap me in a zone. Oh, this is where... Why have we put the coin puzzle here? 3 bright coins in the 5 holes be. First sits the maiden underneath the tree. So in the center. The wind from behind the maiden doth blow. A beautiful flower alone has to grow. So on one of the far sides. Here comes the man, so sleek and so fine. In the pale moonlight his eye doth shine. So he's on the far left. Okay. I've already figured it out. Nope, no health? Oh, okay. We'll just bounce backwards. That's fine. I'll do a separate save. So that when I inevitably die, I can maybe do that last little bit differently, if need be. Game, I would love to be able to get a flashlight and some health. I know I'm asking for a lot of things. I don't give a shit that there are shuffling noises.
Anyone there?
I don't care at all, actually. It's so dark. Is this where my flashlight is? Hi, mannequins. But it's great because there's a flashlight. Hi, Salvia! How is it going? How are you doing? Where did it go? Where did legs go? Legs, you can't duck! You can't see! You don't have eyeballs! Game, I know I'm exploding. Here's the thing.
It's close.
Yes, we know that they're Marys. We knew that in the original without them being like, huh? How's it going, Sylvia? How are you doing? It makes almost being dead incredibly annoying. I think I can turn off the vignette. But like, I'm not entirely sure how else I would supposed to, oh, I guess that's how we would know, because our menu goes incredibly red. Yeah, so that's a choice. Drink that immediately. Okay, I'm still not doing great. Glad to hear you're doing well. Oh, it's just gonna keep yelling at me about that, huh? Okay. Okay. Alright. Oh. Oh! Where are our frames going? That was Quiet Mountain 2. It sure is an experience. I am not sold just yet. Mostly just because we've spent the last hour on like a unnecessarily convoluted. No, it's all good. No, I'm not sold on it just yet. Mostly because we spent the last like hour on a really convoluted fetch quest. Which like, listen, I know that a lot. Oh, I can't even say a lot of like the original was fetch questy because a lot of it wasn't. Like you had to go find items for shoot courtyard key. Like, you had to go find a bunch of items and stuff to do your puzzles, but it was more puzzle heavy than it was fetch questy. That was incredibly fetch questy. So I'm not particularly excited about that. If that's kind of what we're looking forward to, especially since that was all, like, padding. That all just felt like padding. Am I wrong? If you think I'm wrong, like, I will absolutely. It's Penguin. I'm willing to hear it. And I will gladly listen to why you think I'm wrong. But yeah, I mean, yeah, at the start of the game we got a filler episode. It's just like Silent Hill 2, the original, not a particularly long game. But not, like, super short either. I think, like, you could technically beat it in, like, probably, like, 4 or 5 hours. Yeah, we just started about 2 hours ago. We're in, like, the first real location. Like, we got to wander around Silent Hill a little bit. But now it's here. Now we're here. Is this? Okay, it is. Sorry. Okay, more ammo for a gun I don't own yet. Yeah, like, I think we're, like, still fairly early in. It took us about an hour to get to the apartment when I, like, just recently, when I started playing, the original, just to, like, refresh, some things. Why does it look like that? And that was with me just kind of, like, wandering around and, like, looking at everything. I don't know. It felt a little unnecessary to try and pad that out, you know? But here we are. I'm genuinely trying. I am actually trying not to just be like, it's not the original, so I don't like it, because I think that's stupid. But at the same time, I've not been particularly impressed with what I have seen so far. Is there... Those all appear to be windows on the outside. So I can't get in. Everything's locked? Has he just put, like, a red, like, this? Hold on, how do I zoom? This. Is that just to say I can't get in there at all? 100%. Like, and for, honestly, that's kind of been my whole thought with this, when they announced that they were remaking 2. It just kind of, like, for me, just read as one of those, like, but why situations. Granted, I don't know, like, it is just a little annoying in general, not specifically with this, but in general, that, like, so many, devs are just like focusing on making remakes right now rather than putting out like new not IPs necessarily, but just like new games that are original to themselves or whatever. That being said though, like, you know, the Resident Evil remake, Sans 3, I wasn't particularly impressed with it. The Resident Evil remakes have been great. Dead Space was fantastic. Like, they can be good. Remakes can be good, but for something like this, like... Thought I heard somebody grumbling. That wasn't James. For something like this, doing a remake just feels unnecessary, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at. Yeah, just make new games that are good. Consider. Feel considered. Just making a new game that's good. It's just that, like, devs don't want to, like, not devs specifically, but publishers, more accurately, don't necessarily want to take a chance on, like, anything new. They just want to do what's safe and they know will sell, and, like, from a business side of things, I can see that, but also consider trying new things. I think that's, like, why I'm so excited about Slitterhead, when it comes out next month. Okay, what am I missing? Hold on. Well, no, don't put it away, James. Next map. Okay. No, like, I do, as an adult onset gamer. No, I definitely, like, do appreciate, like, remakes in, done to, like, make things more accessible. Very much here for that. This isn't what, like, I think Blooper was saying that that's what this was supposed to be, but I don't necessarily see it being that. I don't know. Like, I'm not anti-remake. Let's clarify that. I'm very much here for it, but it has to do something unique. It either has to be incredibly faithful to, like, the original material, maybe with, like, a change or two here, like, that's fine. I get, you know, maybe making things make a little more sense, or doing something, like, unique and different with it. Like, that's cool. Or just in general, like, making it new so that it looks good, and it's more accessible, more people can play it, maybe make it a little less chunky, whatever. But, like, for something like this, I don't know, it just didn't feel necessary, you know? I don't know where I'm supposed to go. I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure out, like, what the game wants me to do. Am I just, like, fully missing something? James, chill. You're okay. I know you're dying, but you're okay. Excuse me? Hold on. Streamer mode? Why are you off? Let me turn that back on. You did really just pad out all the bit before anything happens to any of the characters introduced, right? Like, it's... I don't know. I am still, like I said, I'm still trying to, like, have an open mind with this and try and figure out, like, approach it on its terms. But I'm not liking its terms so far. Okay, did I miss something in here? Okay, that's where the puzzle is. And I don't have any of the bits for the puzzle. James is actively dying. And the game just wants to keep giving me handgun ammo for a gun I don't own. Cool. I don't know. It, like... It doesn't... You're gonna have to give me a second to, like, fully, like, get my thoughts together. I can hear monsters back there, and I don't know how to get there because it's locked. Am I missing something in the courtyard? Probably. Oh, I see. It's... I think some of my issue comes from the fact that, like, there has consistently, and not just with Blooper, but with, like, a lot of... Oh, is this talking about Walter? Locane siblings murder. Perpetrator commits suicide in custody. Walter Sullivan, the culprit in a recent homicide case, was found dead, having taken his own life on the morning of the 22nd in his jail cell. He used a soap spoon, as I misread the other day. According to the police statement, Sullivan's death was caused by blood loss resulting from severing his carotid artery with a soup spoon buried 2 inches in his neck. Sullivan was apprehended on the 18th of this month and on account of brutally murdering Billy and Miriam Locane. Even though Walter Sullivan did not strike a former schoolmate from his hometown of Pleasant River as someone capable of murdering children, schoolmate admits to having witnessed Sullivan in a state of severe paranoia shortly before his arrest. He was blurting out all sorts of strange stuff like, "He's trying to kill me! He's trying to punish me! The monster! The Red Devil! Forgive me, I did it, but it wasn't me," he recounts. "Guess now that I think about it, he was kinda crazy," the schoolmate concludes. What a great quote. Even if you're going through Silent Hill 2, the original, quickly, it does not feel necessary to pad it out. It's still, like, a decently long-ish game. Like I said, I think you could probably, like, beat it in, like, 4 hours. Like, if you know exactly where to go and what to do. Maybe a bit longer. I could be wrong. I usually take, like, fucking ages to beat it. Probably, like, closer to, like, the 8-hour mark when I go through. But I also, like, forget a lot of stuff every time I go to play. But, like, I don't know. Just already, like, giving me filler content seems just unnecessary. Gotta make it worth the $100. Okay, but for real, I paid, what, $70 for this game? Was not particularly happy about it either. Excuse? What the fuck? Could have paid 80 though. I don't know. It's just like, I am sure that Blooper has attempted. I need health items, game. You have to give me health items. I'm gonna give Blooper the benefit of the doubt and just assume that they did try to make this as good as they could. Right? However, Konami, on the other hand, I am sure, is just doing this as a cash grab. And so, I don't think they particularly care, necessarily, who does what with the IP, despite the fact that they're incredibly stingy on who can have the IP. Yeah, for real, like, $70 is, like, the normal now for, like, games. And it's one of those, I want devs to get paid what they deserve. But also, I want to be able to afford my video game and also still be able to eat that month. Just generally. So, like, it was really refreshing when Alan Wake came out, and it was only, like, $40, 40 or $50. I don't remember what I spent on it, and I think I got, like, the deluxe edition or whatever. Granted, it was digital only, but, like, I don't know. Used to be 70 Canadian, now they're, like, 90, 95. That is insane. Yeah, they used to be, like, 60 USD. And now they're like about 70 USD. And it's just like, I don't know. Yeah, it's like just increasing the price of the video game isn't necessarily going to guarantee that like the devs are going to stay employed. Why is this down here? Why is this not upstairs? Sorry, that's a little tiny nitpick. Get owned, James.
Hey! Wait! Damn it. What's a kid doing here?
Oh, you know, kid stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's like a whole other tangent that I could go on about the whole like price of video games, and stuff like that. But it's just like, it is really just disheartening to see games like IPs that people know and love just kind of get tossed to the wayside because, can I go through that door now? Oh, yeah, because I unlocked it. Okay. Just because a dev just doesn't, or a publisher, excuse me, a publisher doesn't necessarily think that it's going to be worth anything. Like, it's not gonna make money. And, like... Or, on the flip side, they know it's gonna make money regardless of the quality, and so they just kind of put out trash. Either trash because it's unfinished, or trash because they didn't give a shit and they knew that they were gonna move copies anyway. Yeah. Ooh, capitalism. Yay! I don't know. It just like, it makes situations like this just even more frustrating because it's like, you could have literally given this to like any other dev and they would have done it justice. And again, I'm not necessarily saying that Blooper hasn't. We haven't gotten far enough into it, but just given what I've seen so far, I'm not particularly impressed. And I'm dying. And that also is just very annoying and frustrating, especially since this noise is so fucking obnoxious. Laura, where did you go? Oh, you went through here. Cool, 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 cool. Where? Even with a flashlight, it's still so fucking dark. Game, you've kind of put me in a position to not be scared by shit because I'm too busy worrying about the fact that I have no health. And also my heartbeat is like in my fucking brain. Can I have a health item? Please. If I have fucked myself by engaging in fights earlier, and then inadvertently getting stuck in that one fight that I didn't have to do even though they made it seem like I had to do it, I'm gonna be mad. I have the golden apple handle. Great. I kind of know where that needs to go. It's very far away, isn't it? It's not that far away. It's upstairs, isn't it? Okay. Last check before we go. I just want to know that they really have said no healing items for James on normal mode. Oh, do you want to get that key? Give me that key! Second floor hall! Health? Health. Health? No health. If nothing else, I just want to hear James just not being obnoxious. Okay. Is that important? Do I need to know that? Oh, somebody's been drawn on the walls.
Huh. Quite the artist.
Okay, well, James, that's not really the concern right now. Oh my god, let me drink it. Still not at full health, though. That's cool. At least the heartbeat stopped. Just fucking annoying. Oh my god. Nope, already looked at that. I just need him to stop being like, but he's not gonna. He's not gonna stop. He's just gonna keep. Hi? Yeah. Not the Kingdom Hearts noise. Please, Fruity. Anything but that. Alright, get me away from that guy. Oh, I need to go upstairs, actually. Better is not the word I would use. But, you know, nice try. Oh, was that gate open before? I don't think it was. It definitely was not, but we can go through it now. But I want this one. I'm James. Oh, wait, why am I doing that? Second floor hallway key. I know I saw a door with no doorknob. Well, I say I know. I think I know. Oh well. James. Buddy. You dead? You better be. Before we continue on up here, I should go finish looking at the first floor. And I should save, because it's been a minute. And even though we're dying, I, like, don't want to necessarily have to redo all that if I don't have to. We'll start a new save. Okay, I heard you. Heard you being a weird little critter over here. But where are you? I see you, kind of. That's too many! Okay. Again, I would like some help before I go and do a whole bunch of nonsense, you know? Preferably before I die. Valentine's Day. Why is that getting louder? Health? Oh my god. Don't let me open shit if there is nothing in it. I hate it when games do that. Oh my god, give me this. Okay. Well, don't dodge directly into it, preferably. Oh my god, James. Cool. Love that he just kind of gets hit whenever he feels like it. This is cool and fun, and love that for me. Stop it. Stop it. Oh god. Cool, love it. Back on low health. And there's not even anything fucking down here. Oh, blooper. Oh, blooper. Okay, well, back upstairs we go, I guess. Finish exploring that one hallway. See, I just thought there would be something important. In that hall that opened up down there. So that's why I was like, we should go look at that, but nah. Nah. Is that the red pyramid thing? Oh, look, it's the boy. Oh, they let you get, like, real close, huh? Okay. I wish they would have just kept him at a distance like this. That's cooler. But you can just, like... You just full-on see him. I mean, you can full-on see him in the original as well, but I still feel like there's, like, a little bit of different distance. Maybe it's just because of the, like, quality of the graphics or whatever, but... Okay. Aight. There's the boy. Weird pyramid thing. Alright, James. But I know you're hurting. I would love to fix that for you. I keep trying to fix that for you. What's this? What are these? What are these little things we keep coming across? Are you trying to, like, call back to the original and be like, hey, remember that when there was that one corpse that looked like James in that alleyway? Remember that what was it? That grandfather clock you shoved over in the original? Wasn't that cool? Wouldn't it be cool if that was around? Yeah, game, it would be cool if that was still around. I think that would be cool, actually. I don't have a key for that. Wait, is there another... Due to ongoing renovation works, tenants are asked to keep out of the 3rd floor of the building. Sincerely, Woodside Apartments Administration. Okay. Well, I'm gonna go there. And you can't stop me. So, thanks. Oh, hey, look! It's where I get my gun. I'm more interested in health at the moment, though. Oh, okay, cool. Thanks for the bullets. You know, you could give me less bullet pickups and just more bullets per box. Because thus far, they've only been giving me 2 bullets per box. Alright. Give me that. Altitude, aim. Okay, but if I do this, that is still just melee. Okay. Wow, someone's not getting their deposit back. Aim. Melee. Still a little weird. I don't hate that. James, put your gun away, you freak. Bro. Oh, is it man who shot himself? Man who conspicuously looks like James? There's a key there, hold on. Wow, you just fully cover him up, huh? Okay. I mean, that's one way to not let us know who it is. You gonna comment on that, James? No, we're just gonna remain hunched here. Hey, we got the key to 212. Where is 212 in relation to me? Oh, right across the hall. Great. The boy still there? It appears he's gone. Bye. Okay. Just gonna let that tap run? I understand what it's implying, and I just don't feel like doing anything about it. Before I go out there, health? Health! And what's out here? Who's gurgling out here? Alright, maybe we do actually go through this other one first. And find out that it was entirely pointless that we did. Why did they make that a cutscene? Powerful question. Who is down there gurgling? I mean, it was a cutscene in the original, but like... only just. James, put your gun away. I say and then immediately start aiming. I see you. I see you! James, you are bad at this. I mean, he was bad at it in the original too. He'd just whiff right next to him. This is just him, like, jumping backwards at weird times. And you're like, why are you doing that, buddy? What's the point? Just want to know. Career's humble beginnings. 7? 7, you say? Oh, was there one on the Valentine's Day one, too? We'll take a peek at all that later. Is this where I came in? Yes. Again, I'm just gonna be checking my map constantly. Because that's what we do. That's not a door. Hello? Y'all could just wiggle towards me every time. That would be lovely. So much easier to deal with that way. Okay. I see you down there. Did that get him? Hit him, James. Okay. Excuse me. Did I just hear somebody go, hey? That's probably the scariest moment so far. Oh my god. Okay, here we go. What's in here? Welcome home! You wanna come here? Okay. No, where are you going? Okay. Getting used to the combat more. I'm not... It's not the worst. It is just a little weird. Just a bit clunky, if nothing else. But not in like the... oh, this makes me feel powerless and therefore scared kind of way. Just in a, well, that's a little annoying sort of way. Hello? The fuck was that? I'm sorry. These legs are trying to box me. It's got a mean right hook. And I have no health. James. Oh, can I not? Okay, then what do we do? Where do I go? I guess I can go into the hallway and try 205 from there. When the legs strike you, are you getting punched or kicked? I assume punched, since their top legs don't have feet, and they're just hitting me with like the base of the leg, right? I feel like even if the kick doesn't necessarily make contact by the feet, I feel like feet are an integral part of kick. You know? I don't know. I could be off base with that. I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe it's some sort of hybrid between a punch and a kick. You're saying they're like half an octopus, the way they beat you with their forearms. It's a funnier joke when I can see it. It's less funny when you say it, but yeah. Oh! That's where that went. Okay. What's this? What? Oh, what's that? Oh, could I have, like, looked through it? But I said, no, I push first. Hello? Oh. Right where the rooftops pierce through the night. Left are homebound footprints with no owner in sight. But has he found home? Oh, please pray tell. Or a river of memories leading right to his hell. Oh. It's an infamous battle rap bar. infamous for everyone or just you? I'm sorry, that sounded way more mean than what I intended it for to be. I'm sorry. You and maybe 5 other people. Fair enough. Let's do right rooftops. Wooftops is what I wrote. Left foot, Brants. Right river. I don't know if I actually, like, need this, but that's what we're doing. Put your hand in it. Put your hand in it. Put your hand in it. Why did they make the poop so textured? Why didn't they just make it gross water? Why'd they have to put actual shit in there? Look at that. What the fuck? Oh my god. Okay, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Rooftops is 8. Footprints is 9, 10? 10. 8, 10. 5? I don't know. Okay, is there anything else in here? Oh. Okay, well, I'm gonna assume that's supposed to be a river. So 11 for the river. That's a house. We didn't have one for house. Seeing anything else? Footprints to house. So 4? I guess there was the mention of rooftops, right? Is that a 4 or is the 7 for these? Might actually be the 7. That's a funny looking 4. Okay, well, I don't see any other ones, so assumably that's 13. So 13, 7, 11. Right. Oh, fuck off. 13, 7. Is it the other way around? Okay, well, we got the man, and we got a key. Thought I heard stomping for a second. Can I use the steel key to get out? Who? Where? I heard a cockroach. Ugh. Okay, unlock that. Where am I? Okay, so we can get through there now. And then what's over here? It's just the barricade. Okay. So, into the room with all the noise. Where's the other enemy? Oh, there it is. Okay. Well, someone got murdered. Go ahead and drink that up. Still not 100, huh? Okay. Okay, so now we can get into... James, where are you going? We can get into that room. That's like, don't go upstairs. There's renovation. Which would it be? Oh, you know, it's actually probably better to go the other way. More of a direct path. Well, at least we're making progress. That's always nice. Not you. Get down. I'm ready to have a pipe. Because assumably it does more damage than this nonsense. Okay. Unlock. Why did it do that? Why did it vanish like that? Oh hey, a safe spot. I was actually just about to be like, where... when do we get another save? I think... probably call it there for now. 'Cause I need to figure out what I'm eating tonight. And also we've just played for like 2.5 hours. Yeah, judging from how long it took to get to the apartment, it's probably 4 or 5 hours away from the pipe. Oh, Lord help us. Okay. I did just save, right? Yeah, that's what that is. Okay. I would power on main menu, please. I'd power on and do some more, but I do, like I said, I need to figure out what I'm doing for food tonight. Oh, by the way, it's still just the toilet menu. This is what we get. Just toilet. I need to figure out what I am eating for dinner. And then, you know, I have to go to bed at a normal time, because I work tomorrow. But it is Wednesday, so I plan on, again, tentatively, assuming I have energy, all the usual nonsense, plan on streaming more tomorrow, because it's a normal day for me to stream. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird streaming on a Tuesday. It's just different. But because Steam did not tell me that the game came out on the 7th, but at 11 p.m. I had assumed that it was coming out yesterday, and it wasn't. But it's available today, and I was like, I do kind of want to play it on the day that it's released. One of the days it was released, because, you know, some people got it 2 days ago. I don't know. It's not... I can't say it's not as bad as I thought it would be, because I didn't necessarily have a definitive badness in mind. But it's rough. It's rough so far. I'm still hoping that maybe it gets better. That maybe they improve. That, maybe some of it is just me getting used to a new system. But I don't know. I'm not particularly hopeful that Blooper has learned. But we'll see. Yeah, so plan is to stream tomorrow. Again, I will let everyone know. If and when that happens, because again, sometimes I get through my work day and then I'm like, yeah, no, I don't want to, I can't do anything else. But that's been the first 2.5 hours of Silent Hill. Ooh boy, sure has been an experience. I would be curious as to what others are thinking. And again, I know that we are still very much in the early hours, and that it is probably different for me because I am actually actively playing it and having to deal with the mechanics on top of everything. But would genuinely love to hear other people's thoughts. If not here, then let me know in Discord. Yeah, at this point in time, I'm not particularly impressed, but we'll see. It looks great. Game looks good. I'm not I don't like how smooth and shiny the enemies are so far. It doesn't bother me as much with the legs, but with the straitjacket guys, it's just it's weird with the spewers. I don't remember what they're called. But I don't like how smooth and shiny they are. I like had that complaint during the what was it? The combat trailer that they released. I was just like, they look weird. Hope they fix that. They didn't. That's what they landed on. But whatever. That's like minor by comparison to everything else. Music is still great, but Akira Yamaoka did great. He always does. It's my understanding that like he redid the entire like original track and then added a few new ones for this. But music is still good. I'm not the like ambient monster noises are throwing me a little bit. I can hear remnants of the original, which like is fine if they didn't do it, but because they're still kind of there, but they're not happening like consistently, it's throwing me a little bit. I don't know. We'll have to sleep on it, and then I'll come back the next time that we stream, hopefully tomorrow, and we'll be able to let you know why I'm hesitant. But yeah, let's see who's online. Do we have any friends online? We might go say hi to Chu, actually. Because Chu is streaming with Jojava. But also is doing a charity stream. And we love that. We love doing charity stuff. Obviously you don't need to donate if you don't want to, but just letting people know that, like, Chu's raising money. Always a good option. I think it's for gamer outreach. I don't remember. But it's a good cause. Usually is. But let's... What am I doing? Nope, that's not how you spell that. Lol. If you're gonna raid with us, there are the raid messages. First one has global emotes. Second one has emotes for just us. Just subs. People who are subs to me. I know how to speak. But, yeah. Until next time. I don't know. Have a good one, y'all. Think some thoughts about this and get back to me on that. But yeah, we will see y'all next time. Have a good night, friends.